Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander James Badgery. We are honoured to acknowledge the Honourable Darren Chester, who is accompanied this evening by his wife Julie Chester. Minister Chester was sworn in this morning as the Minister for Veterans Affairs, for Defence Personnel, and as Minister assisting the Prime Minister for the centenary of Anzac. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. Also this evening, we warmly welcome Miss Amy Ridio, recipient of the Denmark RSL Branch Anzac Spirit Award for 2018. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Edwin Jones. Edwin Sydney Jones was born in 1883, the youngest of three surviving children of Edward and Elizabeth Jones of the northern Sydney suburb of Manly. After attending Auburn Public School, Edwin worked as an assistant at the Auburn Post Office and sang in the choir at the Auburn Congregational Church. As well as parading part-time with the Citizens Military Forces, most likely the 39th Infantry Regiment at Auburn, Jones had left the Auburn Post Office before the outbreak of war to study medicine at Sydney University. Jones enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Victoria Barracks in February 1915. After training at Liverpool Military Camp, he sailed for Egypt as an original member of the 18th Battalion. After just 2 weeks in camp at Mina outside Cairo, the battalion embarked for the fighting on Gallipoli, landing at Anzac Cove on the 22nd of August 1915. The 18th Battalion was immediately pitched into the bloody fighting at Hill 60 in an effort to capture a low knoll that dominated the British landing area at Suvla. Inexperienced and ill-equipped, the men of the 18th Battalion assaulted the Ottoman positions with fixed bayonets only and were met with a fusillade of rifle and machine gun fire. This costly and unsuccessful attempt to capture the summit of Hill 60 resulted in 383 casualties. Among the dead was Edwin Jones. He was listed as missing in action when the survivors of the 18th Battalion were relieved from the line. Despite the best efforts of the Red Cross to determine whether he had been taken prisoner, no further news of his whereabouts could be determined. In January 1916, a court of inquiry determined he had been killed in the 18th Battalion's ill-fated assault on Hill 60. Jones was 32 at the time of his death. His body was never recovered. Today, he is listed on the Lone Pine Memorial along with 5,000 other Australian and New Zealand soldiers killed on Gallipoli who have no known grave. His name also appears on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. His is just one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Edwin Sydney Jones, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Would you all please stand for the ode and last post?
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man, lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.